Recording Secretary Montoya, if we could go ahead and start the meeting, ask all board members to turn their video on. Okay, it's 4:30, and I'm calling this meeting of the City of Santa Rosa Cultural Heritage Board to order. Ms. Santos, if we could have a roll call. Or I'm sorry, Ms. Montoya.
Absolutely. Let the record reflect that all board members are present with the exception of board member Fennell.
Okay, thank you. Looking at approval of previous minutes, we have none, so we will move on. Item number 3, public comment. Okay, we are now taking public comment for item 4, non-agenda matters. This is the time when any person may address the board on matters not listed on this agenda, but which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of this committee. And then Recording Secretary, do you have directions for the public?
I do, thank you. If you'd like to make a public comment on non-agenda items, please raise your hand. And for our call-in attendees, please raise *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute.
Thank you. And we'll give a minute, see if we have anybody who would like to make comment to the board.
Okay, it looks like we do have one public comment. So let us pull the timer up and then I will give her time.
Okay. Do you have a name for the person?
Yes, it will be Carol. Okay, perfect. All right, Carol, you should have a prompt allowing you to unmute. And if you could please start by stating your full name for the record, please.
Carol Case. And I'm new to Zoom, so forgive me if I am speaking out of turn, because I wanted to comment on the Living Roots project. Is this good or no?
Yeah, we will give you time to comment on that. Right now, it would be 4 items that are not on the agenda.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. No worries. We'll look forward to hearing from you at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have no other hands at this time.
Okay, moving on then to board business. I'd like to read our statement of purpose. Principal duties of the board include undertaking and updating historic inventories or surveys, recommending designation of landmarks and preservation districts, reviewing proposed alterations of historic buildings, and promoting public awareness of preservation issues. Moving to 4.2, board member reports. Do any of the board members have anything they'd like to report at this time? So if you raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hands raised, we will move on then. 4.3, other items, we have none at this time. So we'll move on to item 5, department reports. And I believe our staff liaison, Ms. Murray, has a staff report for us.
Yeah, I do. I actually have something super positive. As many of you know, we've been severely short-staffed, and we have just gone through a couple interview processes, processes, I guess. And I'm happy to report that it looks like we've got some prospective planners coming on board.
Yay.
So what that means for you is you'll probably see some more projects coming to you. And what that means for the citizens of Santa Rosa is we'll be able to step up the pace a little bit because there will be more of us. So I wanted to report that. I think there were either 4 or 5 city planner positions. So again, we're real excited to have some of them coming on board. And then we also had a recruitment, and stay tuned for the deputy director position in our planning department. So stay tuned. I don't know the outcome of that, but I'll be happy to report it in my next visit. So I hope.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Okay. Moving on then to item 6, statement of abstentions. Do any of our board members have any abstentions, need to abstain from any of the items that we have today? Board Member Wong.
I need to abstain. I have a home, a rental home, under 300 feet away from 610 Orchard Street. And then also, there is a 1122 Mcdonald. I'm 3 doors down from that. So probably under 200 feet.
So that would then be
the first 2 items, or 8.2 and 8.3.
Okay. Okay. And I also need to abstain from 8.2. Let me bring Ms. Murray back up, and because we won't then have a quorum for 8.2. Is it possible to do a straw on that?
No, unfortunately, because board member Fennell is just out of town and she's not off board permanently, we will lose the quorum for that item. So we are going to have to continue it.
Well, you know what I'm going to do is the line, the circumference line from my property just touches the corner of that property. I'm just outside, so I'm not going to abstain. I'm going to stay in. I don't have any financial interest in that or anything. So I was going to abstain just because I was pretty close, but I want to see the item move forward. So at least one way or the other. So I'm not going to abstain.
Well, I'll tell you what, I bet you my applicants are gleeful right now. Actually, Monet's applicants.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay. Any other abstentions? Okay. Back on track here. Okay, that brings us to consent items, which we have none. Item 7. And then on to our scheduled items, starting with item 8.1, which I got too many pieces of paper. Fremont Park, defined scope for future agenda discussion at 8444 4th Street. And this is a discussion continued, an agendized discussion continued from the May 4th, 2022 meeting. And our presenting planner is Ms. Murray. And would you like to start us off? And then I'll jump in after you.
I would. And I'm hoping all board members had an opportunity to read my memo about this. We have a process for getting items onto the agenda. It's a 3-step process. we kicked that 3-step process off on March 2nd, as Chair Muser pointed out. And so at that point, we decided to add it to an agenda So right today, what staff is looking for from you is the scope of what you would like to talk about in the third meeting, which is actually a study session. And we would also like to know what materials you would like staff to come prepared with. And we need that information so that we can gauge a return date. I won't be able to give you a return date today, but I will be able to give you a return date at our next meeting if it's not on that agenda. So this should be a very short meeting. It's not a time to discuss the project, the park, just the scope of what you would like to do at the park in terms of landmark designation. I have some photos that were in the packet materials, which I'm happy to bring up on the screen if y'all would like. Actually, I'm going to ask Michelle and Lonnie to help me with that if need be.
Okay, thank you. Just by chance, is Ms. Santos in the wings tonight? If we have questions for her.
Yes, I believe she's on. I believe she's on the meeting, but she's, yeah. I don't know. I don't think that any questions for her should really be part of tonight's discussion, although information from her can be requested for the next discussion.
Okay. Yeah, let me just kind of take it just a little further with overview. So basically at our last meeting, we talked about potential landmark designation for Fremont Park, or possibly the elements or the items within Fremont Park. As Murray said, today is just a really brief discussion as to what we want to really more focus on at our next meeting and put on the agenda. There won't be a resolution at the next meeting. It's just going to be bringing down the topic to actual action items that will require staff work and reports created and such, should we go that direction. After that meeting, and should this issue continue, item continue towards landmark designation, we would then have a historical review report, a staff report, and a staff presentation, and a resolution. Our board's resolution is basically a recommendation to the city council. The city council would then have to take the item, and it would be in their purview to determine whether the park or its elements should have landmark designation. So it's going to be kind of a drawn out process, and potentially one that there might have to be budget money found to accomplish. But that's not to say that we can't, continue on with it or go forward with it should we want to. Two of the questions that I had tonight that are really important questions to me as far as how we focus and move forward are, one, if Fremont Park itself receives landmark status, we know that the zoning has to be changed for that property with an H historic overlay. Question I have is, if we just chose elements within the park, such as the fountain, the arbor, the yew trees, to be landmarks, which our board can, does the property zoning have to change to an H overlay? And I've done some research of the 22 historic landmarks in the city of Santa Rosa, and not all of them, their zoning was changed. There's even houses that the property wasn't changed. The Coddingtown sign, the zoning wasn't changed for Coddingtown. The Flamingo, the zoning wasn't changed. So to me, that's one of the big questions, because having the zoning changed of the property is more significant in the process and more costly in the process than just choosing elements. And if the board was interested in just, the elements, it might be an easier, way to go. The second question I had was for Ms. Santos, and that was, we had a discussion before, and she indicated that they would probably be doing a historic evaluation or report on the park. And I'm wondering if that's been done or if there's plans for that to be done, because that would be useful information to determine whether we think is historic is or is not. So anyway, those are two questions. And then at the end of our discussion amongst us, our brief discussion about this, I plan to make a motion. If a board member agrees with that motion, I'll be looking for a second. And then if a board member feels that that motion should be amended or something added, there'll be an opportunity for that as well. That amendment will need a second, and then we'll move forward. However, if the board as a whole feels the motion isn't appropriate, you'll be able to identify that through your vote. So, Ms. Murray, does that all make sense? Am I on the right track?
I think you're on the right track. So as far as what zoning is required for the landmark designation, I don't know the answer to that yet. And I will certainly come back with the answer when we're ready to move forward on that, or, for the study session. I did speak with Jen Santos, or just got a message from her that she can answer the question asked of her. So she'll get speaking rights right about now, and she can respond.
Okay, and this would be a good time too, board members, if you have any additional questions for her, but again, just kind of keep it brief, because we'll probably have her at our next meeting for a greater presentation and information.
I think at this point, it's just technical questions, nothing really about the park, or, yeah, we've got to really keep a tight rein on what the discussion is.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Chair Muser. This is Jen Santos, the Deputy Director for Parks. Can you all hear me? Great. So just to get back to your question about the historical evaluation, we have not started that process yet. Generally, the park project is generally on hold until we can have a further discussion with this board about what where their interests may lie, and then we can go from there on how we decide to move forward with that process, the historical evaluation, and what type and how deep, all that kind of stuff. We want to know some of the parameters before we get started. So right now we're just in a holding pattern on the park project.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else have, any other board members have any clarifying questions or for Jen? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Ms. Santos. Sure appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. Same here. Looking forward to the next meeting.
Okay, I think before I go to the board for discussion, I do want to open this up to public comment. So Ms. Montoya is there. Let's go ahead and open public comment for this item, and we'll see if we have anybody calling in.
Okay, thank you so much. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand now. And for our call-in attendees, please press *9 to raise your hand. Okay. Carol, you should have a prompt allowing you to unmute, and please start by stating your name for the record. Oops. It looks like she has put her hand down. If anybody else would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand now. Okay, Chair Muser, I see no public comment at this time.
Okay, I will close then the public comment for this item and bring it back to the board. Members of the board, basically, again, this is a discussion regarding landmark status for Fremont Park and opportunity to give some thoughts or comments. Support or no support? Okay, Board Member Garrett.
I support the move to make the park a landmark, and I assume we would have the original drawings and all of that available to us when we actually go for the discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, not seeing anyone else, I'm going to go ahead then and make a motion, and we'll go from there. There will be opportunity, again, to second it, a discussion, any addition to the motion you'd like to add, and then we'll vote. So I move that the board at an upcoming meeting, consider landmark designation of Fremont Park or of its historical significant elements within the park. And do I have a second? Board Member Garrett.
I second the motion.
I'll open it up again for discussion. Would anybody like to add anything to that motion? And Board Vice Chair Pratzelis.
So I'm not sure if this is something I'd want to add to the motion or more of a question. But, I think before we could say, this is eligible for landmark status, we would need a full, report so that we could formally kind of evaluate it and make sure it meets all the criteria for landmarking. So I'm assuming that process would take place prior to making this kind of designation. Is that what we're establishing, what we want staff to put together for us? So what I'm saying is we would need a qualified person to come in and do a full study on and evaluating the park in relation to landmark criteria before we make any recommendations.
Absolutely. That's a good point that you brought up. And so again, kind of the process would be at our next meeting based on the motion. The board would need to identify what reports, what elements the board needs to make an educated and a logical decision on whether it should have landmark status. So right now we're just in the exploratory phase of it. I know that Ms. Santos will be a great help in helping us make those determinations. So we're not asking you to basically say tonight that it should receive. We're just basically saying that we're going to move forward with determining whether it qualifies for landmark status or any of its elements qualify for landmark status. Any other comments? Okay, so with that, so Ms. Montoya, if we could call for a vote on the motion that was seconded by Board Member Garrett.
Okay. So we are doing a vote. Board Member Boren?
Aye.
Board Member Garrett,
Aye.
Board Member Huang,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pritzelis,
Aye.
and Chair Muser.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. All members present tonight voting aye. Okay, moving on then to item 8.2. This is a public hearing for Living Roots Fire Rehab and Church Restoration, a landmark alteration at 610 Orchard Street, LMA 20008. And I'll read the background. Major landmark alteration permit for Alterations is an existing religious facility including 1, rehabilitation of a fire damaged 2-story parsonage, and 2, restoration of a steeple on a church structure. The proposed parsonage would include a primary dwelling unit and an accessory dwelling unit, as well as instructional classrooms, a kitchen, and office areas for church-related uses. The church structure alterations include restoration of a steeple and accessibility improvements to entryways on the south and north evaluations. Our project planner is Monet. Oh boy. Somebody help me with Monet's last name so I don't destroy it.
It's Monet Shikali, and you're stuck with me again because Monet Shikali is on vacation, so I'm going to be filling in for her tonight. So based on that, luckily.
I see that now. Presenting planner, Miss Murray. All right.
So
All right.
I have to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and while I'm getting there, share. I hope. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Or my email. There we go. So before I get started, just knowing that Monet has been very much involved in this project, and I have just learned a bit about it in the last few days. So this was kind of a short notice vacation. The applicant team, including 2 architects, are available for questions. And so I'm going to give the presentation, but I will probably defer to them for most of the answers for your questions, unless it's something that's more related to process. So the project before you is the Living Roots Fire Rehab and Church Restoration. It does involve a major landmark alteration. The 2 buildings are located on the same property, 610 Orchard Street and 801 Cherry Street.
Ms. Murray, if I could just interrupt you a minute. I think Board Member Wang, I think you need to, weren't you going to abstain from this?
Yeah, so I should log off.
Yeah, so you don't need to log off. If you just shut off your video and close your mic, and then you can watch on, and when the items are over that you're abstaining from, you can come back on.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, as I was saying, here we go. So the project proposes alterations to both buildings, rehabilitation of the fire damaged 2-story parsonage, including an encroachment into the side yard setback, and restoration of the steeple on the church structure, including an increase in height. So the site, this is an aerial view of the neighborhood to give you kind of a neighborhood context. As you can see, it's surrounded by several residential uses for sure. And then here's kind of a closer bird's eye view of the property itself. Here's a site plan of the existing conditions. And then here we're letting you know that the general plan land use designation is low density residential, and it's zoned R16, which is consistent with that. It's single family residential zoning, and it's within the H, or historic combining district. This is a photograph of the church I believe, in its heyday. The red box on the historic photo that occupies most of the screen here outlines where the steeple once stood, and in this photograph, it was there. So this is kind of pre-fire conditions with the front porch of the residential unit on the property. And right here, she outlines the porch in red. Again, these are pre-fire photographs of the church and the residential structure. More. And existing conditions right now, which will be addressed in the remodel. Existing conditions after the fire, where the buildings, the windows and whatnot are boarded up. Here's the floor plan for the parsonage on the first floor. And the second floor plan. The church floor plan. And then of course, the two elevations that show the steeple at 65, I think it's well, not quite 65 feet, 62.5 feet. And the renovations for the residential structure. East elevations and north and south elevations. Back, gosh, I'm not sure if it was 2019 or 2020, this project came to the board on a concept basis. There were several elements that the applicant was asked to address. One of them was light fixtures, and just to provide an idea of what they would be installing. They've done that. I'm going to back up because that triggered a thought here. The other thing that they were asked to address on this slide, in the lower left-hand corner, were the garage doors. I guess they were arched before. I'm sure the applicant could provide more information on that, but the board requested or suggested square garage doors. They also suggested, apparently the open space that's on top of the garages is kind of an open space for the pastor and his family. And because there's not a lot of room for that on the site. And it was all open, like almost a picket fence, I believe, during the concept review. And the board suggested closing it in so there would be some privacy up there and whatnot. So their alternative, or what they've done, which, yeah, how they've addressed that comment, is to kind of do some enclosed, some exposed. So you can see that on this elevation as well. So we'll get past the sconces here. So this is a more lifelike image of the changes. The balcony on the residential structure will wrap on 3 sides. And that is it's new, and it encroaches into the setback on the back side of the building. But there's a stairway there now. It's kind of a funny stairway. It doesn't seem to lead to anywhere. I don't know the history of that, but so we're already encroaching into the setback. I guess that's my point. So again, here's more lifelike pictures, renderings. And with that, it's recommended by the Planning and Economic Development Department that the Cultural Heritage Board approve a landmark alteration permit for the property located at 610 Orchard Street and 801 Cherry Street. My contact information is on this slide. However, Monet Shikali is probably the person who can best answer questions for people writing in after the meeting, I will forward any emails I get. I know that the applicant does not have a presentation, but they are available and anxious to answer any questions. And I'm going to ask the applicant to raise their hand if you want to say a few words, or just wait to keep your hand down if you want to wait to be asked.
Okay. Oh, I see a hand, Ms. Murray.
Yes. Applicant Senna, you should have a prompt allowing you to unmute.
I think I found it. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Awesome. I just wanted to thank you guys for your time. We've been really excited about this opportunity. It's been since 2019 since we first presented to you guys, and we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes with engineers and architects and whatnot. And so, Chair Muser, as you were almost going to abstain, I was like, oh no, we're going to have to wait longer. So I'm so glad that you're here and your guys' time. Thank you tonight. I'm looking forward to answering any questions you guys have, and our architects are on as well. I believe. I can't see all who's on the meeting from my end, but I believe they're here. Thank you guys for your time.
Okay, thank you. Before I bring this to the board for discussion, I'd like to go ahead and open up. This is a public hearing, so I'd like to open up for public comment. So Ms. Montoya, if we could open the public comment.
Absolutely. We are pulling the timer up now. All right. First, we have Carol. Carol, if you could please start by stating your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Carol Case, and I'm the property owner at 807 Cherry Street, which is next door to the church. And just a little background, I've owned the property for over 20 years. And the back staircase, there was a question on where does the staircase lead? Prior to the fire, the staircase led up to living quarters for the pastor back 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I have several concerns, one of which there is an open issue with ordinance regarding sound. And I referred that to Monet, and she's apparently still working on it. I am very concerned about the sound. The first thing, though, is I'd like to be assured that the city of Santa Rosa will maintain proper control over this project, and that the city will require consistent compliance with the current building codes. Secondly, the work will be done during business hours and during the week. My tenants have a right to quiet enjoyment and quiet enjoyment on the weekends and during the evenings after 5 p.m. The building itself is a 4-unit building, and it's been a 4-unit building since 1947. The next thing, I would like to be assured that all work will be done by licensed contractors. In addition to that, there's been a discussion about the 5-foot setback and encroaching into the 5-foot setback. I would highly recommend that we revisit that, because that 5-foot setback with the stairs is right on the property line. And it might pose a health and safety issue for fire access. I don't know I'm new to this process, so I don't know how the process has been moving along or who's been out to the property. But the other thing is privacy. I'm very concerned about privacy for my tenants, because my building is a 2-story building. Currently, the upstairs units look directly into the church and over to the side of the church. So potentially it could look directly into the parsonage living quarters. There's been no discussion that I can see about the oak tree in front of the building, because it does have portions of the oak tree on the church property. And and also, is the steeple going to have bells, or is it just for aesthetic improvement? So I think that the biggest problem, or not problem, but the biggest question I have is quiet enjoyment for my tenants and noise. So I thank you for all of your work, because it's a beautiful presentation. But I think I would like to see more work done on it so that there's some of my answers could be addressed, and I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Just to kind of recap, your concerns are sound related to church activities, making sure we have proper control over the project and that they follow all city requirements, make sure the work is done during proper time periods that's associated with a residential neighborhood, that they use licensed contractors, concerns over the 5-foot setback regarding fire access, privacy, probably maintaining the health of the oak tree, and the question of whether there'll be a bell in the steeple. So at the end of public comment, I'm going to ask staff liaison Murray to see if she can address those items for you. Do we have anyone else who'd like to comment?
Okay. We do. And just a quick reminder for our call-in attendees, if you would like to raise your hand to submit your public comment, you would press *9. Next, we have John. John, you should have a prompt allowing you to unmute, and if you could please start by stating your full name for the record.
Yes, John DeLula. As far as the project goes, I think it's an enhancement for the property and definitely for the neighborhood. I mean, you guys have all seen it and you've already commented on it and wanted changes done. And so I just think it's an asset to the community, being that it's an extremely old building that was built 142 years ago. So, but I think the architect did an excellent job in the flow of the building and stuff. So I think any issues can always be overcome, I think, with a little work and stuff. So again, I'm really excited about the project, and I think it's just going to be an enhancement. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So thank you for your words. Just to recap, you're pretty positive about it, an enhancement and an asset to the community. And have anybody up next?
I'm not seeing any further hands, but we did receive an email that I would like to read into the record for you all. If you give me just one moment while I pull it up. Okay. Dear Planner Shakali, we are writing to express our very strong support for the application submitted by Living Roots to restore their church rectory in the Cherry Street Historic District. As you know, the structure in question was severely damaged by a fire some years ago. The current owners have done an admirable job with limited funds to bring the property back. Now they hope to complete the work with the installation of a new spire and the restoration, recovery, completion of living units, one of which will be affordable. The current state of the property is an eyesore in our community. The proposed work will restore it to a condition which is, sorry, I lost the email, excuse me, which is commerçant with its central location in our neighborhood. We strongly urge approval of this much needed property. Our only hesitation is that we wish the project included more units. Allison Dykstra and Andrew Schulman, owners, occupants at 703 7th Street, Cherry Street Historic District. Okay, and it looks like we have more hands. Moses, you should have a prompt allowing you to unmute, and if you could please start by stating your name for the record.
Hi, yes. So yeah, I'm Moses Geller, and we're at 722-726 Cherry Street. And I imagine you're hearing me, hopefully.
We hear you.
Oh, great. So we are really excited that this project can move forward. I think we're between 12 and 14 years of this burned out structure. And we really want the improvements to go in. And we've gotten to know the folks that have turned in this reconstruction project, and they're really, really cool people. And I look to see the church being really good for our community. So we are a double yes to make this go forward. I hope that they have all the funds so that this will move efficiently. We as a community really waited a long time. So there you have it. I wish them the best, and I wish all of us the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you for the comments. And do we have anyone else?
Okay. Carol, I see that you raised your hands again. Unfortunately, during a public hearing, you are allotted 1 3-minute period to share your comments and feedback. I am not seeing any further hands at this time.
Okay, with that, I'd like to close the public comment period. Ms. Murray, would it be possible for you to address the items that Ms. King had at this time, or give us some information regarding that?
I'm happy to. Before I forget, though, I want to make sure that we do an ex parte disclosure.
Oh, yes.
We can do it now, or we can do it before you all start chatting about this.
Let's do it. Go ahead and do it right now. So calling for an ex parte disclosure. So basically, if anyone has had any viewed the site or talked to any applicants or had any discussions on this project. And I see Board Member Garrett.
I was a part of the original concept reviews several years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And I, of course, have gone by the project actually twice, just recently.
Okay, I also went by the project, but I have not spoken to anyone regarding the project till tonight. Okay, with that, back to you, Ms. Murray.
Okay, let me see what I can do about addressing some of these questions. I am not sure. Let's see, I don't believe. I'm going to defer to the applicant team, the architect, to talk about the bells in the steeple. If there are bells or chimes or anything, that I don't have an answer to. As far as trees, the tree question has come up before, and Monet made me aware that there is no proposal to remove a tree, and we can certainly condition the project so that if any work is going to be done that could threaten the health of the tree, then an arborist would be required to be on site, although I don't anticipate that to be an issue. But as a safety measure, the board can add a condition that an arborist be on site during any ground disturbing activities that would upset the tree. The city has a noise ordinance. Regardless if we condition the project, any business, any function is required to adhere to the noise ordinance. We can add that, certainly add that in as a condition of approval. But as I said, regardless if it's there or not, we all have to abide by those rules in our homes and businesses as well. As far as let's see, there was another question. There's setback, privacy. What am I missing, Chair Muser? on that? So as far as the setbacks, I know, before I lose the noise thought, I'm going to come back to setbacks. The other thing is, if you look at the conditions of approval, Ms. Shikali did actually limit the hours of construction, which is something that we do pretty frequently when it's in an area surrounded by residential uses, acknowledging that, you know, people get up and, you know, they need to get children ready for school, or may not want to get out of bed before, you know, 8 o'clock on a weekday. So she's limited the construction hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays. And she's done that intentionally to just to be a nice neighbor. Our standard hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 to 6 on Saturdays. So then getting into the setback and privacy, Ms. Shikali addressed this in the findings, and Mr. Perry, Mark Perry, the consultant, the historic consultant, addressed this in his evaluation. I think I'm going to defer to him. I believe he's on today. I think I saw his name in the contacts, and I think I'm going to defer to him and let him respond to that. And if you want anything more from me afterwards, I'm happy to chime in. So let's defer to the applicant team for any bells or chimes in the steeple and the setback and privacy issue.
Hello, my name is Micah Andrejtic. I'm the architect for the project. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I have major Zoomophobia, so bear with me. I like that there's no video. But thank you for your time, board members, and Susie. I'm sure it's real fun getting handed a project with a few days to prepare, but you did great with the presentation, and I'd like to answer some of the questions and certainly Carol's concerns. Let's start with the tower. Of course, I've tried to replicate exactly what the old photograph showed. It's been a labor of love. It's taken quite a bit of time, and I never saw a bell in any of the photos. So right now there's no intention of a heavy iron bell being rung. However, we did talk about a digital one, possibly for occasions of milestone occasions, Christmas, Easter, and whatnot, and sound ordinances would be respected, and certainly timing. I think I only spoke with Art about this one time, so it's just a concept for me, saving money and space and weight. You don't want to put something heavy up high in the air in California with seismic concerns. So if there was any bells or chimes, it'd be digital in nature, and no bell swinging back and forth and weighing 1,000 pounds that could fall from the tower. So I hope that helps answer that question. Building codes, oh my gosh, yes, no one gets off easy. Trust me, they'll put us through the ringer with the plans that I continue to work on, and work during business hours, of course. What Susie just mentioned, we have to cater to that. Licensed contractors, we have electrical and plumbing contractors in the congregation. However, due to the nature of the project and fundraising, there'll be a lot of owner builder swinging of hammers, but luckily we all know which end of the hammer to pick up, and would certainly be respective of noise issues and things related to neighbors being comfortable with their work going on. But in general, it'd be licensed contractors for the big ticket items, and pounding some nails may need to be cost-wise function of the church members doing so. Sound, as related to a couple things. Susie, if I could ask you to pull up A2.2, the second floor plan, while I speak to the rest of these comments, would probably help everyone. Is that possible?
If it's not for me, I know that my friends in the chamber will help me out here, but I'm going to give it a whirl. So
okay, great. I'll start talking while they're trying to get that up. The upper level plan is an existing, almost a box, almost a perfect square. The floor plan walls are very well respected with just a few nuances to accommodate the new design. Mark Berry, the historic architect, made a good point for insulating the walls, and these structures typically didn't have any plywood back in the day, so the siding is just nailed to the wall framing, and a great way to insulate the building. They come in on the inside and they do the spray foam, if you've ever seen that, and it expands inside the wall cavity. It's very dense. It does an incredible amount of soundproofing over bat insulation. So we think that'd be a huge upgrade. We kind of need to do it vapor barrier wise. I wanted Carol to know that the insulation that does go in the walls is, I'm just guessing, probably 4 to 6-fold more dense and sound prohibitive for noise transmission. And then if you look at the floor plan here, on the top of the sheet, you see kitchen and master bedroom. And the kitchen has a mechanical room right in front of it. If you drew a line from the word kitchen to the word mechanical, it kind of would go straight over to Carol's property and where some of the noise issues may be. So there's already a buffer there of that, the mechanical little room there. When you're in the kitchen, of course, you're at the sink most of the time, so that person would be looking out to the south along the kind of narrower deck. Yeah, there. And in the master bedroom, you're at sleep at night, and you wake up and you're kind of out in the family room, dining room, and kitchen the rest of the day. So I don't see a lot of emphasis on that east wall at the top of the sheet, looking back and forth between neighbors. I just don't see it really happening. And while we had the sheet pulled up, I just wanted to point out, Monet asked me to speak to the setback, and I don't know if there's any way to zoom in on that, but those are keynotes on the right, you guys. And just starting with number 1, that's the existing landing that comes into the existing kitchen. And it's in place right now. If we all walked over there right now, you'd see the landing. And that's keynote number 1, existing portion of landing at Personage entry to be rebuilt. It's kind of falling down. And then please go to keynote number 2. And I dashed in the existing stairs that, again, I just took a photo the other day. I wish I had it for you. But those stairs are there, rickety as they are, coming up to the existing landing at 1. And obviously this is existing. It was built in, this part was 1890, church was 1888. But in the new design, the reason we're extending more deck and moving the stair was that the roof deck design needed a way of egress off of it. So if you go to the left-hand side of the sheet, you can see the roof deck. This is kind of the yard area for the parsonage people. There's very limited ground area to play on, and this is a safe place for the kids to be. And can you go to keynote number 3, and then just a few feet down from it, you can see the 3 or 4 steps coming up to the roof deck. So I kind of needed to, the roof deck's higher than the landing. I needed to get egress to and from the roof deck for fire safety. And then I put the stairs directly against the parsonage to be able to start the stair down to grade, keynote number 4, as close as I could to that. I had to miss some windows and doors of the entry into the ADU. So I just wanted the board members and everyone and Carol to understand the kind of design sequence to how really the stairs repositioned from number 2 to 4, but it's basically all the same concept, a stair with a landing that's already been within the setback of the property there, and kind of is what it is. So that's that. And then if you could go to the elevations, I can speak to some issues there. Board member Garrett, you're correct. You were there at the first presentation. And zooming in on the west elevation at the garage there, I had a kind of arch top door on there, and we've revised to the squared off door. It'll have some carriage type hardware on it and look kind of cool. And then to your point, while the Landmark building is a stone throw away, and I work right next to it on College, which has a railing around the whole upper level, and I actually thought it net looked better. But to your point of asking to close in, I think the suggestion was really forward looking and well received, in that this, as I mentioned, is the kind of front yard, if you will, for the parsonage. And I believe someone at the initial meeting spoke of, well, there'll probably be a barbecue up there and a lounge chair and whatnot. So could we screen that a little bit? So long story short, I did a combo, got some open railing in there. At all the outside corners, I have a good 4-foot chunk of wall. It makes it strong. And then straight ahead, the gap in between the garage and the parsonage, you can see that's solid back there. So there's if you were in plan, a Z shape of solid wall there. So much of it is contained. And yet, as we look at the other elevations, you can see there's portions of open rail. So I thought it was a nice compromise, and got over my ego a little bit and realized that, hey, it is going to screen any stuff, if you will, that'll be up there. So that was that. You asked for the windows on the front elevation to get a little taller. So the upper level and the lower level were both increased by a foot. They're 6'4" wide. Went up there and measured the existing opening. So we're trying to work with the existing framing as much as possible. But the windows were, you got a note here. The original, they were 5 foot tall up above and 4 foot tall down below. And now up above it's 6 foot tall, and the lower level is 5 foot tall, both 1 foot taller, making a little more vertical. I have egress safety issues to deal with. And then at the lower level, there's a very high, strange curb in the lower level areas that I'm contending with. So I think that's about as much window as I can give there. It's been a labor of love. We really feel like the whole project will be like a hub to the community. With all that's going on in the world, I think this is such a positive project, and I think we'll all be well served by seeing it through to completion. And thank you for your time.
This is Mark Perry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. I'm a federally qualified architectural historian and preservation architect, and I have consulted with the architect and the design team from the earliest phases of this. Actually, I had done work on the addition of the building for previous owners, a bathroom at the back, so I'm very familiar with it. I knew the building before it burned down. It is a historic rehabilitation in that the design theme is sensitive to, and in a large part, restoring much of the original building. The canopy or the balcony at the rear building is been carefully crafted to reiterate what was already there. The wraparound porch, although a newer element, is typical of the era. And I just wanted to underline a couple of points. If you look at the site plan, if we can get there, you'll note that this building does not actually look at the property next door. It's into the backyard. The property next door looks at the back of the existing sanctuary. So it isn't entirely correct that people will be looking into the property next door. And the bulk of the parsonage is in the same condition it was at. So there really isn't a change other than to the deck, which is at the upper third of the property at best. And I think that's overlooking a garage on the property next door. And the final issue, and we need to be reminded that historic projects are based on precedents, zoning, planning. That is what's gone on before. If it went on before and it worked, and was needed and useful, you can continue to do that, which is what's going on with that exiting. It's slid up, but it is still, it's moved up the site about 10 feet, but it is still a required exit path, and it still works as an exit path. And so it isn't a prescription. You can't necessarily, or you have the option of not making it meet all the current codes, but historic properties can be precedence-based, and they have met those and continue to use those planning zoning precedences that were on the property prior to the fire. And we're just getting it back to utility, and I give it a big thumbs up. I think Micah has done a really fine job, and it really is. And you don't often see restoration such as that tower. It's really a cool thing that he's actually entirely detailed that tower to restore the previous one. So I say, yay, let's do it. Thank you.
Ms. Burry, back to you. Thank you, Mr. Perry.
I would like to add just one little element, and that is for the concerns about the contractors. In addition to having some, I'm sure, very skilled people building or implementing these changes, there will also be several city inspections that comes as a bonus with building permits. So to hopefully put Carol's mind at ease, this will be done safely.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Murray. Yeah, and again, just final comments to Ms. King. It's unfortunately, any restoration project or anything, there's going to be noise involved. But there are the city does have regulation that will keep hopefully the noise. And the one thing that I would tell the applicant is your contractors that come in, they don't realize that the noise ordinance begins at 8 o'clock in residential neighborhoods. Typically, they want to start at 7 o'clock. So you may have to, hold them off to just keep you from getting sideways with your neighbors, and also making sure that they quit, before 5 o'clock, that they're not working, especially in the summertime into the evening hours, breaking up concrete or whatever. So anyway. Okay, with that, I think we're ready to bring this back to the board for comment. And any further questions or clarifications from either Susie or the architect or the applicant? I'm seeing hands up for both the architect and the applicant. Are you wanting to speak?
This is Art Senna. Just wanted to speak a little bit about the contractor. We do have Total Concepts, a well-known contracting company. The owner has agreed to head the project. And so he, as well as an engineer company, have been already overlooking the project and taking care of that. So we're going to be under his leadership. And in regards to overseeing volunteer teams, that's going to be my role personally. As the pastor on site, my number one priority is to make sure to love my neighbors well. And most of the neighbors we interact with know that we care about them. We're involved in the neighborhood and we care about what's going on there. The last thing I would want is to give God a bad rap. And so whether people love God or don't love God, my role is to just be a good representation of him. And so whether it's Carol, our neighbor, or others, as concerns are shared with me, I'm going to do my best to make sure we care for people well in general. And so I will be overlooking the start and finish of any project, as we've inherited this building in 2018. And from then on, we've been trying to be a blessing to the neighborhood. And so we're really excited about this, and we're continuing to pray that God would raise the rest of the funds. We've raised over $100,000 we're really excited about, have some pretty big grant opportunities we've just applied for, and we're just looking forward to continuing to be a blessing in the neighborhood. So that's it for me right now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Perry, did you have something you want to say? I see a hand up.
No comment.
Okay. Yeah, maybe if you can put your hand down. And how about our architect, Mr. Andrix? Okay, we're good. All right.
His hand just went back up.
Sorry, I'm clicking all over the place here. No comment here unless someone had another question for me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to the board. So any hands on the board? It's time. Okay, board member Garrett.
I'm laughing because I think I'm always the first person to talk. I would actually like to congratulate the applicants. I think they've done a really wonderful job of presenting this as a restoration, and I'm excited to see the steeple come back. I have a couple of comments to make, but other than those, I'm ready to vote for this project to go forward. The open and close, you know, that sort of hybrid of the rail, which I talked about before. I still think that the person and his family will be a lot happier if that is solid. I had an open rail off the master bedroom of my old house, and it was quite a large patio, and it was very uncomfortable to use it because we literally were on display for the neighborhood. So I think closing that off entirely or predominantly on the front and that back on the side would be something to think about. And then to the Miss Kane, I live across the street currently from a very large church that has a very large congregation, and I can assure you that the noise from the church, even this large church I live across the street from, is minimal. They do have a church bell, and it's actually quite lovely. It rings 4 times a day at 9, noon, 3, and 6. And it has never bothered us. So I don't know about the sound being the building sound or the congregation sound when they're coming and going from church, but we've never had a problem with that. Parking, however, sometimes is an issue. I think the project is really wonderful, and the only other comment I have is purely an opinion and an aesthetic issue, and that would be, I think I would not go too heavily into the blue trim paint on the back buildings, because the building you really want to focus on is that beautiful church and the new steeple you'll be putting up. And I think the restoration is going to be spectacular. So good job. Thank you.
Okay, board member Warren.
I absolutely agree with Cappy on the blue trim over the garage, and that I feel like exactly it takes away from the church. So that would be my comment. And I know this building has gone through so many reincarnations over the years. It was even a synagogue at one time, way back. So, but I think it's a lovely project.
Thank you, board member Warren. Vice Chair Pratzelis.
So I'm also really excited and supportive of this project. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to thank the authors of the historic research survey and Steeple evaluation. It was a really well put together report. I really appreciated how clearly the criteria was organized. It was very easy to follow. Also super interesting. So thank you for putting that together, and I'm just excited to see how this unfolds.
Thank you, Vice Chair Pratzelis. Other comments? I'll make my comments real quick. I came from that neighborhood a few years ago, from 7th and Humboldt. I don't live there now anymore. In fact, I was living there when the church burned, and it was a very sad day for the neighborhood. I've been waiting and watching and hoping for the rebuild, and I'm very excited to see it happen. I do see some of the concerns I feel like are based on being a church itself concerns versus the remodel concerns. And I think for me, what's important to remember is this has been a church. It's still a church. It's always had the concerns regarding the church. And if there are concerns with how the church operates, I think that's probably another venue with the city, and that our venue is more to look at the remodel, and if we approve, the repair and the remodel appropriately, which I too will support at this time, and don't have any requests for any changes or concerns. So, any final comments from board member before I ask for the resolution to be read? Board Member Garrett, since you've been on this project all along the way, could I ask you if you'd be willing to read the resolution? And you're on mute. There we go.
Sorry. I'm going to see if I can get it. I actually don't have it. I'm unable to access the iLegislate right now.
Yeah, they did a really fun thing on the day of our meeting to do the password.
Right, and I can't. For some reason, I haven't been able to get on it. But
I totally understand.
I would actually love to move the resolution, but I think someone else will have to do it.
Do we have another board member who would like to read the resolution, or has it in front of them? Vice Chair Pratzelis.
I have it in front of me. I'm not sure which part. I don't have to read the whole thing. Just the first.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I have the resolution in front of me, but you just need me to read the first.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Resolution of the Cultural Heritage Board of the City of Santa Rosa approving a landmark alteration permit for alterations to an existing religious facility, including 1, rehabilitation of a fire-damaged 2-story parsonage, and 2, restoration of steeple on a church structure for the property located at 610 Orchard Street and 801 Cherry Street. Assessor parcel numbers 009, 033, 014, and 009, 033, 013. File number LMA 20-008.
Thank you. And could we have a second? Board Member Garrett.
I second it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this time, we have an opportunity for any further discussion or questions. If anybody wants to add anything as a friendly amendment to the resolution, or we'll move forward for vote. Seeing no hands. Ms. Montoya, if we could call, Board Member Garrett.
I do have a question. If they would like to either, completely enclose that railing on the top of the garage, do we have to say that would be all right with us in the resolution? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. We won't want them to have to come back to us. So, Ms. Murray, would that be a friendly amendment?
It would be a friendly amendment, and you can add it in as a condition where if they so choose, they can modify and enclose more or all of that area.
So can we add that to the resolution then?
Yeah, so Board Member Garrett, if you would just give us a brief language, and then I'll call for a second on that, because we'll need to, in fact, we'll have to get, well, let's see, Board Member Garrett was the second of the original motion. So how does that work, Ms. Murray? We usually go back to.
Is there somebody else willing to make that motion?
Yeah, well, I'll make the motion. I make a motion, a friendly amendment to make a motion that should the applicant want to completely enclose the railing above the garage space, that the board would approve that. So.
And then can I second that?
And then you would need to second it because you seconded the original. Actually, let's see, Ms. Murray does our originator of the original amendment. So Vice Chair Praselis, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then Board Member Garrett, do you agree with that friendly amendment? Do you support that?
Yes, I support that.
Okay. And I'm just going to ask the applicant real quick, just because I think we should always go back to them. Are you okay with that, having that option?
I'm so blessed to have that option, and I'm thankful for the insight. And I would like to talk a little bit more about, should we paint it all white? Like the blue takes away, so we could talk about that later. But thank you so much. This is great.
Yeah, we're not going into colors at this point. We're going to vote. Okay, so we have the original resolution with the friendly amendment to give the option of closing in the upper railing or leaving it open, applicant's discretion. And Ms. Montoya, unless we have any other comments, can we call for a vote?
Absolutely. Board Member Boren?
Aye.
Board Member Garrett?
Aye.
Vice Chair Praselis?
Aye.
And Chair Muser?
Aye. And so the resolution passes with the friendly amendment by all ayes of all board members present. Okay, moving on to and Craig, congratulations to the applicant, and we look forward to the progress, and thanks for your time and effort of everybody involved, the architect and the historian. And I do also agree the historical report was really, really fun, a really, really fun read, so thank you. Okay. So we're on to item, let me get my notes here. Item 8.3, this public hearing for front yard landscape and hardscape landmark alteration at 1122 Mcdonald Avenue, LMA 21-018- something, continued from May 4th, 2022 meeting. Background, landmark alteration permit to allow the following alterations to a structure and property within the Mcdonald Avenue Preservation District. Add brick steps from brick walkway to the porch. Replace rotten wood steps from the driveway to porch with bricks. Add brick skirt to front of house to cover foundation. Add porch height. Replace existing brick concrete driveway with brick. Install brick walkways in front. Install fountain on brick walkway to front door, and replace existing rotten porch deck with brick. And landscape, hardscape, brick, add new wooden fencing to front yard. And I'm going to go ahead and call for it now ahead of time. So any ex parte communication on this project? And Board Member Garrett.
I used to live down the street from the project, and I currently live a couple blocks away, and I go by it all the time. And I've talked several times in the past with the applicants.
Thank you. And Board Member Pratt-Sells.
I just drove by and looked at the place, but I haven't had any communication with them.
And Board Member Bourne.
I have also seen the location, but have had no conversation.
And I also have walked my dog by there on many occasions. Favorite walking route. So, okay, with that, and our project planner for this project is Christina Tominas, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Muser and members of the Cultural Heritage Board. I'm Christina Tomians, Senior Planner, and I'm happy to present 1122 Mcdonald Avenue Landmark Alteration. You may recognize this project because it came before you on March 2nd as a concept landmark alteration permit review. And as you mentioned in your introduction, there are several items included in the project description, adding brick steps from brick walkway to porch, replacing rotten wooden steps from driveway to porch with brick steps, adding a brick skirt to the front of the house to cover foundation at porch height, replace existing brick concrete driveway with brick, install brick walkways in front, install a small fountain on the brick walkway to the front door, replace existing rotten porch deck with brick, and brick walkways with planting areas, as well as a front yard picket fence. This is the project location. It's near the corner of Spencer Avenue and Mcdonald on an interior lot. Here is the proposed site plan showing the landscape configuration with the brick walkways and planter areas. Here's the existing elevation that the applicant provided.
Excuse me.
Sorry, are you?
I don't think we have the presentation up.
Oh, oops. Let me go back. I apologize.
No worries, take your time.
Oops. Here we go. So that, okay. Apologize. So here's the project description that I went through the itemized list of all the different elements that the applicant is hoping to alter to the front landscaping and also to the front facade of the house, which includes adding the brick skirt to the front of the house. Here's the project location near the corner of Spencer and Mcdonald Avenue. It's on an interior lot. Here is the applicant's site plan showing a bird's eye view of the landscaping hardscape that would be mostly brick, and the pavement configuration that he's proposed. This is the existing street elevation that the applicant provided. And here's the proposed street elevation with the addition of 16 inches of brick to cover the foundation of the front of the residence. Here's an additional drawing that the applicant provided showing a brick walkway and brick skirting. Here's the proposed material, paving brick that the applicant has chosen, as well as a front fence detail and brick skirt detail. And you can see in the top right, the proposed picket fence around the front yard. And here's some original site photos. I believe this photo, if I can move this over, from March 2021. Here's some site photos from August 2021. Oops, sorry. Here are photos from December 2021 showing some of the brick pavers. Here's what the applicant described as a current site photo from December 2021, sort of a Hollywood Drive or Ribbon Drive to the garage in the back. And I believe these are the rotten wooden steps that the applicant is proposing to replace with brick. And at that March 2nd, 2022 CHB meeting where this was brought before the board as a concept plan, the CHB acknowledged that the design guidelines specifically says not to replace wooden porches with brick. It conceded that redwood is no longer considered a hardwood. And there are many instances of replacement brick porches in the Mcdonald neighborhood. And the applicant has provided some examples of some brick porches near the project site. There was also additional concern posed by the board regarding removal of any original siding on the house to accommodate the new brick skirting. The applicant at that meeting in March stated that he could install the brick in such a way that the change could be reversed and not alter the original siding. The board stated that you had no issues or concerns with the brick walkways, driveways, fence, fountain, or landscaping. So I believe the main concern at that meeting was over the brick skirting. And this is my contact information if anybody in the public attending or listening in would like to submit a comment. My email is ktoomins@srcity.org, and my office number is 707-543-4692. The applicant, Mr. Bean, is available if you have questions of him, and I'm available for questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant wanting to make any comments or presentation tonight? Not seeing any.
No, I think we've thoroughly discussed it at the March 2nd meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I will go ahead and this is public hearing, so let's open it up for any public comment. So.
Okay, if you would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand. And if you are a call-in attendee, please press *9. Okay, and I'm not seeing any hands at this time.
Okay, with that, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board for discussion or questions. And Board Member Garrett.
I have a question as to why this is coming to us when the majority, actually all the work except the brick porch itself, everything has been completed. And in fact, additionally, shutters have been added that I don't think were on the original request and certainly are not original to the house. I've pulled up photos out of the Mcdonald Avenue book that was written by Anna Connor, and there were no shutters. Dr. Bean said at the last meeting that this home was a mirror image of the neighbor to the north, of which Ms. Tumian showed a photo of. And the two photos are also in the Mcdonald Avenue book, and he's right. They both had exactly the same arbor and the same entry, which was from the parking strip. There were no front steps originally, and actually the front door on the photo in the Mcdonald Avenue book is on the sidewall as it is in the house to the north. So I just have questions about how that process works. I still have my same concerns. I mean, our mandate as a cultural heritage board is to protect and promote the long-term preservation of the properties within an historic district. And I see if we're removing some of those materials that both the city guidelines, the state guidelines, and the Secretary of Interior's guidelines say are important to maintain, and also not to add materials that were not original, which in this case would be the brick siding on the foundation. I would like an explanation for all that, and the brick siding is already partially up, and I'd like to know how that was installed so that it can be removed easily. So I have a lot of questions.
So I can speak to one portion of your questions, which is regardless of when and if the work was done, the applicant would be required to obtain a permit, whether it was before work is performed or after the fact. So in some ways, he's legalizing a lot of the landscaping work that was done without benefit of permit. Staff was not aware of shutters being part of the proposal, so that was new information to us. And so I would pose the rest of your questions to the applicant, Mr. Jeff Bean, to answer.
Okay, question one is?
Ms. Bean, I think the question was regarding if shutters have been put on the building without going through this process, and also the state of construction that you've been progressing without approval at this point.
Yes, some shutters were added to the front windows. They're held on by
two screws.
Two screws, one at the top, one at the bottom, easily removable.
To add my third color to the house, this is Shelley Bean. I built them, I made them, I routed them, I painted them, I put them up. Didn't think it was any big deal to add a third color dimension to the house. Like I said, there's one screw up top, one screw in the bottom.
Okay, yeah, I think, I guess, you know, the principles of being in a historic neighborhood and what's involved in being an owner in the historic neighborhood, you may want to kind of become more familiar with that. The difficulty for our board is you're in the middle of one process, but then if you start something else that hasn't been addressed, it just makes things more complicated for our board to make a decision. I think tonight, I'd like to just focus on the resolution as it's written and the items that are written. As far as the shutters or any other changes go, I'm gonna leave that back to our planner to work with that with the applicant if proper permitting is required. But we really can't address those items tonight because the shutters and such aren't really before us tonight. And I'll ask Ms. Murray to kind of chime in on this as well, and if she has any additional guidance to give us.
So we have a couple options. So we've got elements that were not included that have already been applied for, and we don't have any documentation or any way to research those elements, the shutters. I'm assuming that's it. I don't know for sure that there are other things that haven't been added, and I'll defer to the beans to let us know that. But my recommendation would be, rather than, I mean, the two options that we have are move forward with what we have, and they go back through the process for a new permit to legalize those, or we condition the project to remove what's there, or we continue it until we can get approval on those or approval for those items that were not included, or not approval, review, till we have an opportunity to review them, which we don't have that time right now. I think there would also be some sort of a historic report that would likely be required. But the board does have options. I'm going to ask the beans, if you guys could please mute yourselves while I'm talking, I would appreciate it. Or if staff can, thank you. So you do have options. You can approve what's before you this evening. You can approve it and add a condition to remove the shutters until they're approved, or you can approve, or you can continue it to add the full scope of work to come back to you at a later date. And I will leave that option, those options out for you to discuss.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the beans, and basically based on what Ms. Murray has told us, you do have an option of continuing this item, which would give you an opportunity to bring back to the board the additional changes such as the shutters for review. Your application would be, updated to include that, or we can just move forward tonight with your existing application, but would probably result in having the shutters removed. And get your thoughts if I could.
So if can we go through everything else first and then say, okay, we're going to reapply for the shutters? Or are you saying that if we want to leave the shutters up and then we have to go through this whole process just to vote for the shutters and then we got to wait for everything else?
If you continue the item to include the shutters, yes, you'd have to wait for everything else. If we move through the process tonight, basically you'd have to remove the shutters as a code compliance, and to get the shutters back on, you would have to probably go through this whole process again.
Okay, go ahead. So if I took the shutters down and then I wanted that third color and I had a painter come in and paint shutter looking like, paint looking like shutters, then that's okay? You just can't have the two screws in the wood touching the house for the third color?
Yeah, the board doesn't typically regulate painting or paint colors, but it does regulate forward-facing part of the structure changes, which include windows and shutters and such. Board Member Garrett?
Shutters are not generally applied to craftsman type cottages like this. There are none in the neighborhood that have them. They don't show up in any of the books I consulted. So that would be adding something that is contrary to the age and the property. yeah, my concern here is not the aesthetics of what's happening, but the fact that we are charged with keeping our historic districts, in good condition, and properties that are part of those preservation districts need to keep their historic value. And once we start destroying that fabric in, one property, that will continue happening in other properties. The other thing is, if you no longer have to actually get a permit to do all the work you want, I think that's a problem. And I think we'd be setting a precedent. But I mean, this is a very awkward conversation for me, because I've known Dr. and Mrs. Bean for a really long, for however long they've lived in that house, the house next door. And it's a matter of, in my mind, of how the city wants us to work with planning in the future.
Can I just say that if you look back at the picture of the mirror image house next door, you'll see that it has black shutters on its windows. These two houses were built at the same time as mirror images. So are you saying there's none in the neighborhood, but there's some right next door? On a house built at the same time?
Are you talking about the one on the corner? That one?
Yeah. Right next
but that one also has a bay window, which takes it out of the craftsman style. But the porches are what you were talking about in your, last time you came, and the porches were identical. The arbor part over the porch with those four posts, those probably 4x4 or 6x6 posts, were this exactly the same on your house originally?
I believe the part where her porch is now was added on. Her house is much wider than ours.
Well, the pictures of her house, the early pictures are what it looks like now. And there's a picture of your house. This is from, hang on. The one in here is from 1970. I didn't have time to go any further than what I had available on, on my desk here. But I mean, I think that, the porch has already been changed. Your porch has already been changed. While you and I are conversing, could you tell me why, or not why, but how the brick siding was installed so that it can be removed easily?
It's just some little thin veneer bricks on end that could be popped right off.
Are they mortared on?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you. And are you? Is it okay if I ask direct questions, Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So Jeff, so are you going to? Are you still planning on taking the siding off, or are you going to leave it the way it is now?
I'm going to leave it the way it is now.
And not take the siding off?
Correct.
Good. Okay. Then I don't have as major a complaint about that if the siding is not being taken off for more brick.
Okay.
Are you going to continue that brick siding all the way around the house, or are you only applying that on the front and the side where the steps are?
Only the front and the side where the step is.
Okay.
Chair Muser, this is Susie. Can I interject a comment?
Yes, please.
I think for the sake of discussion tonight, we should stick to only the items that are included in the landmark alteration and figure out how we're gonna discuss, or when we're gonna discuss, the shutters. They should not be part of the discussion tonight, though, other than whether they're added as a condition to remove, continued for an opportunity for staff to do a proper analysis, or removed and then they come back through the process on their own.
Yes, I agree. And I'd like to, bring the board back to the resolution at hand. And I think the shutters being applied to the building are something that city planning and code enforcement should look at and deal with. And that is something that we don't really need to deal with tonight. It's not actually part of the agenda. I know it's related, but I think we should just focus tonight on whether we're going to approve or disapprove the landmark alteration as it's written. Do I have any other comments from board members? Questions?
So just a question for clarification. I'm sorry if you've already reviewed this, but I want to make sure I'm fully understanding. It sounds, I'm also similar to board member Garrett, surprised that we're voting on something or approving something that is sort of half constructed. So I'm wondering if the applicant can clearly state, like, where are they in this construction process? Like, which, it sounds like the brick is half completed. So just, I don't know, it's sort of an awkward, like, if we don't approve it, you have like a half done, just, it's an awkward sequence of events. So I'm wondering if you can clarify which pieces of the proposal have been installed thus far.
We have done the brick hardscape
with a permit.
with the permit.
We were told that if we did the steps and kept a space between the steps and the house, that's considered hardscape. So since this was taking so long, we talked to our brick guy and we decided to go that route. Now there's a space between the house and the bricks, the steps, they don't touch the house. And so that's how we kept going with the brickwork. We were told we could do the hardscape if it was a landscape feature, and that's what we were told. So that's why we move forward.
Okay, so you're sort of considering it like a separate piece of this, and the pieces that we're looking at haven't been started.
I'm sorry?
You consider your construction like the beginning part of the path has already been constructed, but that wasn't part of your proposal that you're presenting to us. So that's kind of how you made that dividing line between what you would start constructing earlier and what you're waiting on approval from us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board questions or comments? Board Member Boren.
So is the brick going up the wall other than the porch or not?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
No. We're not taking off any siding.
Okay. Questions or comments? I think for me, I think the process has been unfortunately difficult for everyone. But that having been said, we are where we are today, and the applicant is basically requesting approval from us for some specific things that are in the resolution. And I think it's unfortunate that things have already been done, but that's been done and here we are. So I think for me, it's a matter of whether I can approve what is being proposed in the resolution and what is being done, or if I can't support it. And probably the difficulty that I have is, on one hand, seems we all from our last meeting agreed that the brick on the porch was okay. The removal of the wood porch and to put the brick on the porch would meet our approval. But if we put brick on 16 inches up over the siding, that wouldn't meet our approval. And, you know, citing Secretary of the Interior's, you know, reasons why that wouldn't meet our, well, those same reasons would really apply to the porch as well. So it's almost kind of like, if you're going to approve the porch, if you're going to support the porch and change that from wood to brick, then it isn't that far of a reach to go over to the wall. And walking by and looking at the site and looking at that wall and looking at the foundation below that wall, which is really very unattractive, to tell you the truth. I think that I can, especially now that the applicant is willing to leave the wood behind it, so that if it ever wanted to be removed, it could. I'm probably going to support the resolution tonight. So, Board Member Bourne. Oh, okay. Sorry, hand up. So that's my comments for tonight. On the any further comments or discussion?
Can I just say that the original wood porch 2x6 wood, we decided to keep it and not go with the brick porch.
Oh, okay. But the face of and the steps going up to the porch are still going to be brick, correct?
Yeah, those don't touch the house though.
The steps are a landscape feature, not.
That's what we were told. If we keep them a certain distance from the house, then they're a landscape feature. And that's the only reason why we went forward, because this is taking quite a while. And we said, okay, does this really matter to us? Can we really preserve the wood behind it if we did that? Talk to our brick guy. So that's why we went forward. So we don't want a brick porch, and we're not going to take off the siding.
Or cover it.
Or cover it. It is what it is.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are we ready to introduce the resolution? And do we have a board member who would be willing to introduce the resolution for the applicant tonight? Okay. Well,
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, my inclination is to vote no, because they are definitely changing historic elements. But there are only 4 of us here, so that means it won't pass. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if we can go through this resolution and remove the language, like the proposed exterior changes are consistent, they're not consistent. So somehow we have to remove if you need my vote, we're going to have to remove that language.
Excuse me, can I interject? We have a quorum. We need a simple majority. 3 votes will pass.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry, I was going by the old rules.
I know they keep changing. So.
Yeah. Thank you. And also, after the resolution is read, and if it receives a second, there'll be an opportunity for discussion, as well as any friendly amendments or changes to the resolution that any board members might want to make. Board Member Bourne.
What I don't understand is you're saying that the stairs, these stairs are leading up to the porch, but they are not touching the porch?
Correct.
There's a space.
There's a space. There's vapor barrier and there's a space.
And that's considered safe?
Yes. Nobody can fall in the space. It's thin.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, maybe I'll go ahead and get it rolling out. I'll read the resolution if we're ready for that, and then you can.
I think Board Member Garrett has a question.
I do have a question.
Oh, yes.
Of the applicants. Is there a space where the brick and the siding of the house meet, where you've applied that over the brick over the foundation?
I didn't see him do that. Did you play?
The little 6-inch bricks, 5-inch bricks are against the concrete foundation.
The concrete, but they don't abut the siding.
No, they're below it.
So are they actually behind it as well?
No,
below it.
Below it, but there is a small space there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And there's flashing.
And there's flashing there too.
Flashing separates the siding
between the two. Bricks. Okay, thank you. Actually, just for interest, almost never is the foundation covered because it's important to leave it so that you can see the foundation itself and judge if there are any issues. So if you look at old houses in the Mcdonald neighborhood and probably the other old neighborhoods, all the concrete foundation shows. But that's just an FYI.
Okay.
Okay. Comments or questions? Okay, I'm going to introduce the resolution. Resolution of the Cultural Heritage Board of the City of Santa Rosa approving landmark alteration permit to 1, add brick steps from the brick walkway to the porch, 2, replace rotten wood steps from driveway to porch with bricks, 3, add brick skirt to front of house to cover foundation at porch height, 4, replace existing brick concrete driveway with brick, 5, install brick walkways in front, 6, install small fountain on brick walkway to the front door, 7, replace existing rotten porch deck with brick, 8, landscape hardscape brick, add a new wooden fence to front yard located at 1122 McDonald Avenue in the McDonald Assessors parcel number 180-640-058, file number LMA 21-018, and I waive the further reading of the text. Okay, do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, Vice Chair Praetzelis, seconds. Okay, I think we need to now open up a discussion because it sounds like there are some changes, some friendly amendments that probably need to be made to make the resolution more accurate. And I'll kind of open that up now. If anybody has. Board Member Bourne.
So my understanding is that the brick covering the original foundation can be removed so that any future, so that would be available and visible at any future time. Is that True.
It sounds like that's the case, but Mr. Bean, or Ms. Bean, if you could comment.
Oh, sorry. The brick veneer is about 3/4 of an inch thick and can easily be popped off.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Not seeing any further discussion. We have a resolution and we have a second, and
I have a question.
What the heck?
And this is probably for the planner or for Susie. If we strike everything under the, so all the proposed exterior changes are consistent with, which I can't find any of them, any of these A, B, C through H as consistent with the guidelines for the historic district. Can we just say that we're voting for this because the work has been done and leave all that other wording off? Otherwise, I think I'm going to have to vote no. And it may not make a difference because there's a quorum.
And I think it's a really good point. And basically, the findings that have been identified, which is basically A through H. If you don't agree with those findings, then you don't support the resolution. I mean, that's kind of, however, I will say that, the reason why we are a board and things aren't, necessarily black and white, there's a little bit of gray in there that we look at the big picture and we look at everything, and then we make our our choices and we place our votes. So, other comments, questions? Okay, Recording Secretary Montoya, could you call for a vote, please?
Yes, thank you. Board Member Boren?
I will vote yes. It's been a very unusual presentation and back and forth, but if the work has been done, so I will vote yes.
Okay. Board Member Garrett?
No.
Vice Chair Pritzelis?
Aye.
And Chair Muser?
Aye. Okay, so with the vote, the landmark alteration permit passes with 3 ayes and 1 no. Okay, I would like to just throw caution out to the applicant that, you are in a historic neighborhood, and by doing these projects and continuing these projects without, understanding the ramifications, puts you and puts the board in a very difficult position. So you did get approval tonight. I would probably highly recommend that you remove the shutters until you can get a proper approval for that. But thank you for your time and your patience, and good luck with the rest of the project.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to take a 10-minute break before we proceed on the last two items. Would that be all right with you, Liaison Murray?
I was going to suggest the same thing. It was almost like you read my mind.
Okay, and there is a hand, Vice Chair Prezelis. Did you want to?
I just wanted to second what Board Member Boren said. You know, I supported that, but I didn't. It was an awkward resolution, and I hope that we can avoid that in the future because, you know, it's not what we're here for. And it sets a bad precedent, and I think we should be watchful of that, and we need staff support to make sure that that doesn't happen. We need to have regular meetings so that people aren't put in a position where something like that happens. Because, yeah, for obvious reasons, it's just not how we should be functioning. So, yeah.
I want to respond in that we have very little control when people do work. We're having much more regular meetings, and we turned this particular project around quickly. I want to say that when staff receives a code enforcement, we look at that work as though it has not been done yet. And we consider that throughout our analysis. I don't think we were aware that all the work had been done. We also don't do regular site visits. We don't have the time to do that. But I just wanted to respond to that this was very awkward. It was awkward for you. It was awkward for us as well. And I don't think any of us are the reason for that awkwardness. So I want to thank you all for the discussion and let you know that you're very much appreciated.
Okay, thank you. So with that, let's take 10 minutes and we'll look forward to Board Member Wong coming back and joining us for the last two items.
Somebody has not turned their mute on.
I just muted the person, Susie.
Board Member Garrett joins us, we'll resume.
I'm so sorry. I had to climb over a baby gate to get to you. I think we're...
Yeah, we're just waiting on Board Member Garrett. Okay, we're all here. Okay, I'd like to resume our Cultural Heritage Board meeting and move on to item 8.4, which is Williams Residential Garage and ADU. And this is a concept landmark alteration at 212 Benton Street, LMA 22-003, continued from the May 4th, 2022 meeting. And our presenting planner is Connor McKay.
Uh-oh, I have bad news for you. You're stuck with me again. So give me 1 second here. I will bring up my presentation. I'm filling in again for Monet. I did speak to the applicant this morning to let him know that that I would be deferring to him with questions. So here we go, share screen. Okay, so before you this evening is the Williams Residential Garage and Accessory Dwelling Unit addition. This is a concept design review, so there's no decisions being made tonight. The applicant is seeking guidance from the board. I'm going to say the applicant and staff. They're proposing to construct a new garage with an accessory dwelling unit above the garage. The two-story building would be placed at the front of the property. The existing residence, as you'll see in upcoming aerial photos, is constructed at the rear of the property. The required project will require a minor landmark alteration permit. And because of the state's ADU laws, or laws pertaining to accessory dwelling units, we can't require any additional, excuse me, any land use entitlements for accessory dwelling units. So the accessory dwelling unit is exempt from the landmark alteration, which limits the scope of your review to the garage only. I'm sorry, it limits the scope of staff's review and the zoning administrator's review, because it's a minor landscape alteration, to the garage only, which is why staff is also looking for direction from the board. Here's an aerial view of the site. It's near the corner of Benton and Ripley Street. And here's a closer version of that. And as you can see, the primary structure, the existing structure, is towards the rear or the south side of the parcel. Here is the the site plan kind of turned at the north side is on the left of the screen. And you can see where the existing structure is and where the proposed garage accessory dwelling unit would be placed right up at the front, looks like on the 10-foot setback line. And I think another easier to read, so you understand the layout of the site. And here are the south and east elevations and the north and the west elevations. This is the site looking at the property from the street. The garage structure off to the right of the garage is actually the adjacent property. And the yellow hum in the back is the existing primary. That's looking straight down the driveway. The structure is proposed just to the left of this photograph. That's the existing home. So the applicant and the Planning and Economic Development Department are requesting that the Cultural Heritage Board provide comments and direction for the proposed structure. And that concludes the staff's presentation.
Okay, I'm not sure that I have to ask for this for concept items, but I'll ask for it anyway. Any ex parte disclosures? I know I went by and looked at the site. What else?
Okay. I also looked at the site.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take down your recommendations that you might have for the applicant so that we can put that on record and give both the applicant and staff that information. And Ms. Murray, just correct me if I'm wrong, but we won't be taking any action on this project because it is an ADU and because of state ADU regulations. But we will be in hopes that the applicant and staff will take our comments and recommendations so that the garage and the ADU fit appropriately into the neighborhood. Am I correct in that?
You are correct, and I'll just add that your comments will be summarized. Even though you all may not agree, your comments will be summarized and provided to the zoning administrator when action is taken on the project.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this point, I'd like to just open up to the board members for Board Member Bourne.
How big is the house? Does anyone, what are the dimensions of the original structure there?
I'm going to ask, is the applicant, oh, we have the applicants raising their hand. Never mind.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Hi, this is Ben Williams. Thank you guys for considering our project. The house on the property now is 900 square feet. Yeah, we're really excited about doing this project. We've picked some plans and a building design that we feel pretty much exactly matches the current home. We're planning on going with color schemes that are exactly like the current house, just because we like how it is. We love living in a house that's from this era, and we appreciate the stylings. And we obviously want to make sure that we're compliant with everything that the city and you folks would require us to be. So yeah, we're happy to be here. Thank you.
Other comments from the board? I'll kind of make a couple of comments. It's a very bungalow-rich neighborhood that you're in. It's got some beautiful homes. Your site is a beautiful site. I guess I can just hope that when you pick exterior siding materials, that you choose something that either complements your house or complements one of the other bungalows in the house. When you choose your roof pitch and your eave structure, that you can consider, bungalow styling as well. Your garage door as well. You can choose a pattern and a design that complements bungalow architecture, and of course windows. If you can stay away from horizontal sliders, aluminum, vinyl, and go with double hung or single hung style windows.
Yes, I think if you guys take another look at the elevations, you'll see that we had the very same considerations. We, obviously want to, we actually had the plans altered to be more, in fitting with the neighborhood. I definitely agree with you. We definitely want to go with double hung windows. We actually are planning on doing shiplap siding like the house has currently. Again, our emphasis is that it will be an exact copy of the style of the current home.
Chair Muser, you're muted.
Board Member Garrett.
I was unable to get by the project itself, but the proposed ADU building looks fine to me, except you probably don't want to use the exact same siding on it as you have on the house, because you want to differentiate the age of the two buildings. That would be per the Secretary of Interior's guidelines. So similar, but not exactly the same.
So that could be like a larger shiplap or something along those lines, like a slightly bigger board, or not an exact match, in other words.
Not an exact match, slightly bigger, slightly smaller, just so you can differentiate between the historic building and the new building. Okay. Yeah. And
yeah, that shouldn't be hard at all.
No, it looks like a really nice job.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Are most of the homes in the neighborhood single level?
That's a great question. No, in fact, right next door to us, there is a two-story house. It's actually a single-story house in the front with a large addition in the back. That's 2 stories with a dwelling unit above it and I believe, yoga studio underneath. The dimensions of that building are probably about 20 wide and about 30 long. And it's 2 stories and it's about 10 feet from our fence. So that's a factor. There are also multiple within probably a 2 or 3 block radius, multiple projects that have gone on in the last 2 years that have been very similar to this project, although ours would be considerably smaller. And by that, I mean, in the last 2 years, there's probably been at least 3 or 4 garages built above, garages with ADUs built above in our general neighborhood. Those properties are not affiliated with the historic district as far as I know. But to answer your question, yeah, there are quite a few 2-story buildings in the neighborhood. One of the other considerations that we had is this building and the plans really are, the roof pitch is supposed to be about 20 feet. So the total height of the building is supposed to only be about 20 feet. And, we're really trying to take into consideration, you know, the comfort of our neighbors. We don't want this thing to be a monstrosity in the front yard whatsoever. That's why we have a 20 by 20 building. I mean, that's about the smallest 2-car garage you can get and about the smallest living space you can get. So again, you know, we don't want to offend anybody. We want to make sure our neighbors are happy with us. We want to basically keep our lives happy for the rest of the time that we're in our home, which is going to be a while. So,
because I'm like looking on Google Maps, and it looks like most of the neighborhood is, at least that street, the immediate street, is mostly single level homes.
That's a valid point. There are quite a few houses that are the main residence, but there's also quite a few single story or multiple. There's lots of those multiple dwelling units that are behind some of the other properties.
But they're not, you know, 10 feet away from the sidewalk, though, right?
That's true. That's true. That's a valid point.
Is it possible to do an ADU, you know, on one level with the garage, or do you have to build it above the garage?
Well, we wanted to build above the garage for a variety of reasons. Mostly that we want to have a yard for our children to play in still as well. This isn't going to be an investment property where we, you know, rent it out or do anything like that. We're building this so we can have extra living space. My wife and I have 2 small kids and a lot of stuff, and 2 dogs and a 900 square foot house. So initially we had a plan to just build a garage and you know, use some storage space, but we're not sure sort of how our situation will be with needing more bedrooms in the future and things like that. So we eventually went around to a website and started looking at plans and found this, and we were really excited about it because it seemed that it was just a really great match for our house. And again, you know, we do have the 10-foot setback, but that's why we wanted to go with a building that wasn't going to be huge. We wanted to go with 20 by 20 and 20 feet tall. So we have pretty much the minimal amount of impact. In the picture that we had during the plans, and you see our neighbor's garage is off to the side. We're planning on doing essentially a 2-story version of that, roughly the same spot. So the setbacks from the street, there's buildings all over the place. But
it looks like most of the street. It looks like most of the street is single level homes that are set back like 10 feet.
It's about that, yes.
Okay.
So I think what we're going to be planning on doing is essentially doing a double level home, but right at 10 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
I have a question for Susie. Is that okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Susie, so because this is an ADU, there's really not much we can do. Or our comments, I mean, do they matter even?
Of course they matter. And in fact, it's one of those conundrums because there's a garage attached to it and the garage is not exempt from your review. It's not exempt from landmark alteration. I believe it's a minor, so it will not be coming back to the board. It'll be going to the zoning administrator. So this is a challenging project. So we look to you, kind of our professionals, for some guidance on this. So your comments matter in the sense that you'll guide staff in the direction that you want us to go, but your comments will not be included in the decision. I mean, you won't be making the decision. And when I say your comments, let me correct that. When I say your comments won't be corrected or won't be included in the decision, they will likely be in the findings when staff takes it forward that references the Cultural Heritage Board's comments at the concept meeting of, May 19th or May 18th, I guess, and saying things like the siding, is different, is differentiated, pursuant to or in line with the Secretary of the Interior standards. You'll find things like that. We will refer to your comments in the findings, but unless it's appealed, it won't be coming back to the board. So really, this is staff looking for direction.
I mean, I just think that, building a 2-story home alters the character of the neighborhood. And that looks like the project looks like a main home to me.
Well, the idea was that it would look like a main home and not just a garage, since we had a 2-story building, essentially. We actually had the plans altered to, and I don't know if you can put that back up, but the very front elevation does look like a 2-story home. And that we actually did that on purpose because we didn't want it to look like it was out of place. We wanted it to look like our current house, or a house that would look like that if it was on the property originally. So again, that was, we did some things there with the intention to try and minimize the impact. And that, I definitely share your concerns. We've had talks with our structural engineer about setbacks and things like that. And we've checked with, obviously because it's 400 square feet, the setbacks don't need to be quite as bad as they would be if it was a larger building. Really what we're planning on here is just the fact that it is going to be small. It's really just a garage with an upper level. It's not going to be an apartment building. It's not going to be a giant second residence. It's a 20 by 20 building. So I don't know. I feel like sometimes I go back and forth, to be honest, about our setbacks, but I don't, other than the actual style of the building, I don't think there's going to be a big, I feel like it'll fit in well, to be honest. But I'm very grateful for you guys to put your input in, because I enjoy being a Santa Rosan. I'm a lifelong Santa Rosan, and I frankly want to do this right, and I want to complement our neighborhood and not take anything away. That's really important to me. So yeah, I appreciate everybody's comments as well. They're very useful to me.
Board Member Garrett, you had a hand up there.
Yes, could you put is it possible to put the site plan back up? Or the plan with the 2 buildings on it?
I'm trying.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure it's okay. Screen 1. All right, can you see the presentation?
Yeah, so the building on the right in front of what I assume is the house is someone else's building, right?
Right,
Correct.
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
That's our neighbor's garage.
And is there, do you not have enough room where that red car is to put your garage there?
Well, we were worried that it would be impacted by the oak tree, and we have a large yard in the front with nothing in it. So we decided to essentially put it in that spot. Again, we want to maximize the space we have for our family as well and try and save some of the yard.
So is where the fence is that the neighbor's fence, the hog wire fence?
Yes, that's the hardwire fence is our fence.
So your fence goes, the hog wire fence goes
along the driveway.
So it's the property line is right where your fence meets the building to the
correct.
What is that?
Right there.
West,
yes, right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So and that's the side of your house that we're looking at with the windows?
That is the front from the driveway viewing down the street. It's a funny house.
Yeah, where's your entry?
The entryway is through the gate that's to the left of the red car. There's another gate right there, and that goes back into a small yard where there's the entrance back there.
Oh, so the house is behind that wall, that fence in front of the red car.
Exactly. So you can see, yeah, that's a much better picture. You can see how large the lot in the front is with just nothing on it. And you can see the houses next door to us with the high-pitched roof. And on the right side, the giant 2-story addition right sort of the middle of it with the solar panels on it. I don't know if you folks can see that.
So would the garage and the ADU unit fit between your house and the property line on the, I guess it's the east?
No, there are, it's pretty hard to see that, but there's like palm trees there. And that's probably, I don't know, like a 20-foot space or something like that. It wouldn't fit there. There's also a pond right by the house. It's difficult to see with the shadows in that particular picture, but those areas are full of stuff.
And so the three houses on the west side of the property,
Yes.
those are all single story, correct?
Yes. I think the one in the middle has a small loft. The other two are single story.
Okay,
the one
and
to the right does have a double story with the solar panels on it, like I said.
At the where the solar panels are, or behind, or towards Benton Street?
Okay, where the mouse is now, that is the 2-story building with solar panels.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and that's looking down into our courtyard and into basically our front door.
And could you put the cursor over where the front door is, please, on your property?
Right about there.
Ah.
Right about there, yeah.
So just a question, why wouldn't you be willing to put your garage further back, closer to your house, and have a bigger yard space?
The idea was to have a bigger yard space by putting it closer to the front. So that behind it, we could have a lawn area or a garden area or a spot for the kids to play. Essentially now, that's just a rocky, it's pea gravel. And then the lawn is more or less weeds. I mean, I try to keep it neat, but you know, it's more or less a vacant lot in the front. I mean, I feel like something's got to be up there. You can see the setbacks on the house next to us as well.
The one to the
Obviously that's a single story house, but the setback, you know, we're all right on the street here.
Uh-huh. Huh. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or recommendations from the board?
I would think that if this building were moved back closer to the house, with more distance, you know, maybe where the second story portion of the house to the east is, it might be more in keeping. I don't know how tall those single story buildings are. Do they have high ceilings? Are they, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't drive by there. So,
yeah, our home is definitely the shortest as far as 1-story homes go in the neighborhood. The pitch on a lot of the other roofs around here is a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, since we have this picture pulled up too, you can look at we were mentioning the pitch of the roof, you know, earlier, and how we don't really want it to be this towering building. And you can see all the way to the right how we have our exact 20-foot elevation from floor to the tip of the roof. So again, you know, our emphasis was more of a building that was less imposing on the street. We really just kind of wanted to do everything. We wanted to have a building that could be a garage, an accessory dwelling unit for us or the kids if they're older, or an aging parent. We wanted to have as much of our yard for our kids as we could. And we also wanted to have a building that fit in with the style of our neighborhood. We wanted to make everybody, we wanted to do something that was going to add value.
Susie, your email's up. There we go.
So is the front door that goes, into the garage, is that a functioning door?
Yes, it will be.
And the garage doors are on the west side facing your neighbors?
Right.
So when you drive down your driveway, you make a turn to the left.
You would turn into the driveway, or turn into the garage, correct, to a left.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
Any additional comments, questions? Board? Yeah, Board Member Bourne.
Yeah, it's a really unusual situation. And I think you've accomplished something very, that it, you know, it still has the charming effect of the neighborhood. So it probably took a lot of twisting and turning to get this so that you could have everything you need. So I hope it works out for you.
Thank you very much. My wife and I have talked about it immensely.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Bourne. Other comments? Okay, well, I'm going to bring this then to a summary of what I heard, and please, if we need to add additional things that I missed, jump in and get it. So what basically I heard was that the applicant should try to use a different siding so that it differentiates itself from the original structure on the property. There is interest in it being a single level instead of two-story, that the neighborhood is predominantly single-story, and that being at the front of the property, that single-story would probably fit into the neighborhood better than two-story. And I also heard that consider moving it back closer to the house, especially if it's two-story, to kind of eliminate that two-story presence right on the street. And then my comments of that the garage door, windows, light fixtures, general style of the house should complement bungalow style construction to fit in with the neighborhood. Did I miss anything? Any other comments we can give?
Roof pitch. Did you say something about roof pitch too? I thought I heard that.
Yeah, maybe I did. Yeah, and roof pitch. Yeah. Okay. You know, I didn't open up any public comment for this. Ms. Murray, do I need to do that?
I think we need to open up public comment for all items. So if there's anybody there that wants to comment.
Okay. Ms. Montoya, if we can open up public comment.
Absolutely. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand now. And if you are calling in, please press *9. Okay, and I'm not seeing any hands at this time.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Okay, well, I think that concludes this item. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for taking the time and hearing our concerns and hearing our recommendations. Look forward to seeing your progress. And
thank you all very much for your time and consideration. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you. Okay, moving on then to item 8.5. We're in the same neck of the woods. This would be the Campbell roof replacement another concept review at 408 Benton Street, LMA 22-005. Background here is concept review for roof replacement. The applicant is seeking guidance from the Cultural Heritage Board for two alternatives. The request for the Cultural Heritage Board to provide comments and direction for the concept review item is exempt from CEQA because there is no possibility that the action will have an effect on environment. And our project planner is Ms. Murray, and I believe there's been some updates to this project that maybe Ms. Murray, you can go ahead and just fill us in first on those and the project.
I was going to share my screen, if that's all right, and I promise to address those updates in my presentation, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
Okay. So again, yes, this is another concept item. We're looking for direction from the board. So this was originally scheduled on May 4th. So for those of you that may have looked at it back then, there were three options, and the applicant, the property owner, Lacey Campbell, has since then been in touch with another roofer. So as we go through, the concept review is for considering two options. Originally, she thought she would have to change the pitch of her roof in order to use the asphalt shingles. Since then, she's learned with a new contractor who's willing to guarantee the work for the life of the roof, 30 or 50 years, I'm not sure, I'll defer to her on that, but that they can install the asphalt shingles with the roof pitch that's there now. So the applicant has changed her options to consider to retain the existing pitch in both situations, and asphalt shingle has actually moved into her first place. It was second place before because it would have required her to modify the pitch of her roof. Price-wise, those two options were the same. She just preferred to keep her roof pitch lower with the metal roof. Now she has the option of doing either finishing material, asphalt shingles, or metal panels, and keep the same pitch. The reason that the staff recommended that this item come before the board is because the zoning code directs us that if somebody wants to change their roof or replace their roof, which all of us go through that every now and again, that if they replace it in kind with the original materials, that staff can approve it. It's exempt. We can approve it over the counter. What the zoning code doesn't do is direct us on what to do with the roof when they're changing materials. So because roofs are they're above the eye level, especially this lower pitch roof, we're looking to you for direction and taking her through the minor conditional or landmark alteration permit process and piggybacking it on another project that or probably the same project, but the rest of the project, which is all behind her house and is all minor landmark alteration work. So we're confident with reviewing that on the minor landmark alteration level, but we need some guidance on the roof. So her site, it's also, yes, down the street from the last one. It's on Benton Street. This one is closer to the corner of Glen Street and Benton. Here's a picture of the front of her home. This slide, well, I guess it's not completely outdated. The standing seam would still last 50 years. Asphalt shingle has a life of 15 to 50 years, and tar and gravel 18 to 20 years. The existing, my next note, the existing tar and gravel roof also serves as a neighborhood cat box. And the roofer confirmed that in his letter when he went up and looked at the condition of the roof. I believe also that with the roofer can, I'm gonna ask Ms. Campbell to just confirm this after I'm done, that I believe that the roofer said he can preserve the existing downspouts, and there's something old about them. So So with that, that's a nice short presentation that concludes the options. And again, contrary to what was in staff's memo, which should have been updated, we are looking at either the same pitch with either shingle or metal roof, and looking to you for direction.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Murray. Comments from the board? Vice Chair Prezelis.
A question. And do you know, kind of in the neighborhood, are there other homes that have the standing seam metal or the asphalt shingle, or is it primarily the similar roof that she has currently? Like, is there a precedent for this change in the neighborhood?
I will say that the roofs in the neighborhood are predominantly asphalt shingle, and I think I saw a metal roof down the road, but that's not a real common roof for the historic neighborhoods that I'm aware of.
I walked the neighborhood up and down, and the tar and gravel roofs are becoming kind of far and few between there. I think there were this house and maybe one other. Most of the other houses have been converted to asphalt shingles. And the fact that the applicant is willing to not change the roof pitch, which I think would just totally destroy the look of that historic house, because it's a really cute house. And I guess I also have to say, I have a house with a similar pitch that at one time had tar and gravel. It now has asphalt on it as well. It's probably a pretty common go-to. I do have, and I'll talk later, but I do have some recommendations to the applicant should they choose to go with the asphalt. I really would not support the metal roof. I think the metal roof would be completely out of character with the building, but I think asphalt with proper color and texture would blend in fine with the neighborhood. Board Member Garrett.
I concur. The tar and gravel roof is traditional on that style house. And historically, they all had tar and gravel roofs. The asphalt roof would be the more appropriate choice of the two. The standing seam metal roof is way too contemporary for an historic district. So I would definitely go with the asphalt. And probably in a gray to make it similar to the color of the tar and gravel. I mean, it is part of an historic district.
Other board member comments?
I drove by the property as well, and I think that I would also vote with going with the asphalt shingle. I think the metal roof would be not in character with the neighborhood.
Other comments? Okay, I'd like to point out to the applicant that going from the roof that they have now, that roof was designed with lips around the edge that actually collected the water, and then it had a kind of a scubber action that where the drains came through the eaves and down. And in changing to an asphalt roof, make sure your roofer, addresses that. It might require some carpentry work to eliminate that lip that the asphalt, that the other process had. The other thing is because of the pitch and with shingles, really use an underlayment, use a an ice or a fire and ice underlayment. It's an adhesive roll that would go over your roof and seal it up with the shingles going over the top. And then the last thing is the flashing, because it is such a low pitch. Your roofer really needs to pay attention to the flashing and go the extra mile on all the flashing so that you don't have leaks. And I see the applicant has their hand up, so I'm going to defer to them.
Yes, thank you guys. I appreciate this time. And I was going to address that. The roofer that I recently spoke to gave me the kind of the how-to of how he would do this with a underlayment that was essentially a waterproof barrier that would run through all of that and would maintain the same gutter system and downspout abilities by using that underlayment as part of the gutter that is, as you know, is kind of inset to the roof. So that would all maintain the same historical look, which is what I was hoping to keep, was the same look without the cats on the roof was really my preference. So I appreciate the suggestions, and I will take that back to my roofer. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
You bet. Yeah, you'll find the underlayment is fantastic stuff, and with the protection of the asphalt shingle over the top of it, you'll have an excellent roofing system. Other recommendations or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll just kind of summarize. It sounds like the board is unanimously in favor of asphalt, and then considering a color that complements the house as well as maybe complements the original tar and gravel style roof. Will we capture that?
We got it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ms. Campbell, for taking the time to come to our board for listen to us. And I think with that, we
Chair
have...
User, did you want to do public comment for this item?
I'm sorry, say that again, Ms. Montoya.
Did you want to hold a public comment period for this item?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and open up public comment.
Okay, if you would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And if you are a call-in attendee, please press *9 to raise your hand. Okay, and I'm seeing no hand.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Okay, I want to thank all the board members for a long evening, and it was kind of a tough board meeting at times, but I appreciate everybody's valued input and look forward to our next one. And with that, I will close the Cultural Heritage Board tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night, board.
Night.